Hello, everyone. In today's episode, I'd like to share a story that's given me a lot to think about. Recently, I had the chance to join a delegation from the Australian government to visit an Aboriginal community, Australia's Indigenous people. They've lived on the Australian continent for an incredibly long time. According to some scientific studies, Aboriginal people have been here for about 50,000 to 70,000 years, so a very long time. If you ever get the chance to visit Australia and buy some souvenirs, you'll probably notice dot pattern designs in red and black. That's the traditional Aboriginal art. And more famously, there's the boomerang, an object that people often associate with Australia. In the past, I spent quite a bit of time learning about the Aboriginal people, the first inhabitants of this continent. One thing that kept puzzling me was this. They've been here for tens of thousands of years, yet their civilization didn't seem to develop in the same way as others around the world. Over time, I started to understand why. Australia is a very harsh land, dry, hot, and with poor soil. The Aboriginal people lived a hunter-gatherer lifestyle. They didn't farm on a large scale, and they didn't store up food. On top of that, since Australia is such an isolated continent, they had very little contact with other civilizations or external advancements. But what I find most fascinating about them is their mindset and way of life. They didn't try to conquer nature. They lived in harmony with it. Their culture has no written language, but it's been passed down through stories, ceremonies, and deep spiritual beliefs. For them, living in harmony with nature and honoring their ancestors is what truly matters. So even though their society didn't develop in the way we often think of, urbanization or technology, they preserved a rich, sustainable, and deeply unique culture for tens of thousands of years. And in my opinion, that in itself is a form of development, quiet, but deeply meaningful. Back to the story. In modern Australian history, when the British Empire discovered and began colonizing the continent, they committed many injustices against the Aboriginal people. Killings, cruel policies. There's even a term in Australian history called the stolen generation. That refers to children who were forcibly taken from their families under government policies. This story is powerfully portrayed in the movie Australia, a must-watch if you get the chance. Later, as Australian society became more modern and humane, the government started making amends. In the early 2000s, the Australian government officially apologized to the Aboriginal people for past wrongs and introduced many generous support policies. Essentially, they were heavily subsidized by the government. It seemed like things were heading toward a happy ending. But surprisingly, these very support policies have now become a major issue for the government. I think all of us, at some point, have felt tired of the daily grind and wished someone would just support us so we wouldn't have to work. There's a saying, "Be careful what you wish for." And it fits this situation perfectly. The very thing we often dream of is at the heart of the problem the Aboriginal people are facing now. You might ask, how is that a problem? They live in a peaceful country, are basically supported by the government, don't have to worry about money or health care. It sounds like paradise. But it's not. When I visited their communities, there was a heavy, almost haunting atmosphere. Statistics show that crime and domestic violence rates in these areas are alarmingly high. I later came to understand the root cause. If you're born into a life where you never have to worry, grow up without needing a job or purpose because everything is provided, you start waking up every day asking, "What should I do today?" And every day feels the same. Life gradually becomes empty and meaningless. It might sound tempting at first, but living like that long-term is devastating. That's why many turn to drugs and other destructive behaviors. Right now, this remains one of the most difficult social issues for the Australian government. The project I'm currently working on is aimed at finding solutions to this problem. If I get the chance, I'll share more about it. It's quite interesting and relates a lot to well-being. I wanted to share this story because it gave me so much to reflect on. Like I said, in our daily lives, we often feel tired, studying, exams, work, getting caught up in the hustle. But it's those very challenges, the journey from one goal to another, that make life more meaningful and worth living, something that's lacking in the lives of many Aboriginal people today. That's the simple story I wanted to share. As one of the first episodes of this podcast, I'm not sure if it's exactly your cup of tea, but I hope these short stories can give you a new way of looking at things and a little boost when life gets tough. By the way, in addition to YouTube, I'm also uploading these on platforms like Spotify. Soon, they'll be available on Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts for easier listening. In upcoming episodes, I plan to include more visuals to help explain things better, so YouTube might still be the best place to watch. If you'd like to stay updated, feel free to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you'll know when a new episode drops. That's it for today's episode. I'll see you all in the next one.